So, Mark, thank you so much for joining me today. I really appreciate it.
No, it's great to meet you, and I'm glad to be on your show.
Yeah, before we kind of look at wrestling, I want to talk about what you're doing now because I think that's more important than any wrestling match you've ever won. Champion of Choices, which I've seen the videos on YouTube, and it's the Mother's Day, the Mother's message, the love video, which I was crying after watching it. It was very emotional. Just talk about how you started the organization and just like your relationship with your mother.
Well, obviously, my mom was my biggest supporter ever since I was a kid. She just thought I could do no wrong, and she was the mom that was screaming at all the sporting events and always taking me or picking me up or whatever. She was just a great mom that many of us, man, we often take for granted the very things in life we should appreciate. And never realizing that till later on in life. And that's the message I share about appreciation and compassion and empathy for people, and especially with what kids are going through today with the bullying and depression, anxiety, the suicidal thoughts that a lot of these young people have today. And our organization, Champion Choices, really made a difference. This is our 15th year presenting at schools all over the world. Actually, we even went to Russia and Guatemala to speak at schools, and it's just been incredible. It's just snowballed into this amazing organization. Up until the pandemic, we averaged 230 events a year. Wow. So we were going nonstop. And that was right after wrestling, doing right. 250 cities a year. Yeah. So it's just been an incredible journey. But I couldn't be happier in my own life right now. There's no greater joy than helping another person. So it's like finding my calling in life, and not finding it till later on in life.
That's great. I was also going to ask you about the pandemic, because I know you, like you said, 250 a year is kind of like, wrestling, going from city to city. So how did you adjust during the pandemic? Did you guys do anything virtually?
Well, we did a lot of virtual events, which, obviously it's not the same as being there live. I mean, for me, I know we inspired a lot of kids through, the virtual events, right. But not being able to see them or, after the events, there's so many kids that are lined up to meet me, and everyone has a story. Right. And many of the schools that we spoke at allowed the kids to stay after and talk with me, which was just beautiful, man. We had some of the best conversations, and I missed that. Virtually, we couldn't, obviously we can't, the mask, the social distancing and all that. So it's very difficult. Even going back to school now, we just started back a couple of weeks ago. We were in Connecticut 2 weeks ago, in New York last week. And again, it's a little difficult because the kids all got masks on now, and they can't, a lot of them can't come up to you and hang out with you and tell you their story. And I miss that. That's part of the organization. I think we really made a difference in students' lives. And not to say that my presentation on stage isn't making a difference, but there's something about that one-on-one time that just a student never forgets.
Right. Have you had any kids come up to you since the pandemic and say, I really struggled during it, staying home for a year? I mean, it's hard on the kids. I have 3 of them.
No, I got to tell you, man, we got more letters during this pandemic than we've ever gotten. And, usually when I go to school, we get over 100 letters just from the students that just saw it. They want to write to you and tell you how much they were inspired or maybe even changed or even saved their life. Yeah. But the pandemic has just brought out so much isolation and loneliness, depression, addiction. Social media addiction, spending, 8, 10, 12, 15 hours on TikTok or something, it's just incredible how our smartphone has outsmarted us, So I got to tell you, and I really try to get through to the kids in the sense that, pursuing passion in life, going after goals and dreams that they may have, when you spend so much of your time in one avenue of your life, whether it's social media, YouTube, TikTok, whatever it is, you're taken away from those dreams and goals because you're not pursuing them.
Yeah. Yeah. Obviously, since you started, I mean, social media has blown up. Have you adjusted to that? Have you gone to social media to draw the kids in?
I mean, I'm on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, I got them all. Yeah. But I have them all because that's where the students are. Right. And that's where they reach out to you. Yeah. I right now I get most of my messages through Instagram, private messages through Instagram. And but I mean, back in the day, it used to be Facebook. You know, we get all the letters and stuff through Facebook, but very seldom you get those anymore because kids have moved on to Instagram and TikTok and some of the other avenues.
Yeah. Now, kind of going on your career, I mean, I reached out to you saying I lived in Buffalo for a few years, worked in there. I know, started, you were born in Buffalo. Hockey player start like, and you did so many other sports. Was there one sport that really was you were drawn to?
It's funny you asked that. No, I mean, obviously hockey was my first love. I've been playing since I was 12 years old. And, but then when I got into football, that became my first love. And then when I got into boxing, that became my first love. And then after boxing became professional wrestler. So it was always in that moment, you want to do so, you were just so, I don't know, just so intrigued in doing well in that particular sport.
How did the wrestling come about?
Well, after boxing, I went through a really depressing time in my life, got involved heavily into drugs. And I watched 10 years of my life go by as basically a drug addict. Right. And I had some friends over my apartment, and one of my buddies he had the remote control. He's like flipping through the TV channels, and he landed on professional wrestling. And I go, whoa, stop it there. Let me see this. And as we're watching wrestling on TV, man, I got to tell you, I don't know what you call it, the aha moment that, where I just looked at that TV, and I always knew I was a good athlete. And I go, hey guys, I can do that. Yeah. My buddies busted out laughing. They go, Mark, look at the size of those guys. I think the Road Warriors were on or somebody. Right. They go, those guys will pick you up over their head and throw you right out of that ring. I said, no, man, I'm telling you, I can do that. And my other buddy goes, Mark, you're 30 years old. What do you do? Start a pro career now? Right. And I said 2 words I share every presentation. Those 2 words are, I believe. Noel, you have no idea the power you give yourself when you believe in you. And believing that I could do this, I had to find out now it's about taking action towards a goal or a dream. And the goal was wanting to be a professional wrestler. How do I do that? I don't know how to get into this. And I was living in Venice, Florida, and there was a wrestling school in Tampa that I found out about. The Malenkos, pro wrestling, Boris Malenko. His sons were Dean and Joe, famous, unbelievable wrestlers. So I would drive there. It was about 60 miles. I would drive there after work on weekends. And 1 year later, at 31 years old, I signed my first contract as Johnny B. Bad in WCW. Right. Wow. Amazing journey. Amazing.
What was your first bump like at the school?
It's so funny you asked that. Okay. So when I first got to wrestling school, they do something like this. They have you cross your arms and just fall backwards, I didn't think nothing of it. I fall backwards and land on my back. Yeah. I tell you, just the way I hit that day, it was like, I sound like a seal from SeaWorld. I was going, I couldn't catch my breath, not knowing how to land properly or anything. Yeah. But Boris Malenko, their dad, Dean and Joe's dad, was an amazing coach. And he really took a liking to me. I mean, he took a liking to everybody, but I mean, you felt that connection with him, and I don't know, I just felt I can do this, and then I found out that if you drive to Atlanta, Georgia, you have a chance of getting picked as being one of the guys that gets beat up on television, enhancement guy, the jobber, Yeah. And so I would drive down there. I met a couple guys in the gym who actually do that. Robbie Idle and Rick Ryder were a couple guys I met. Bob Cook, a couple guys I met that told me about, going down to center stage in Atlanta. So you drive the 8 or 9 hours, whatever it was, from Venice, and you hope you get picked. And my first time, they actually chose me as a tag team with another guy against Doom. Ron Simmons, Bush Reed, who were the world tag team champions. Yeah. For my first match, I'm in a tag team championship match. They squashed us. I mean, when people say, is it wrestling fake? I said, not when you wrestle them. But it was just brutal. But anyways, long story short, after the wrestling match, Dusty Rhodes said he wanted to see me. Now, I kind of screwed up some spots in the match. So I thought, I'll probably never get invited back to this, And as soon as I saw Dusty, I started apologizing. I go, hey, listen, I'm sorry about the finish. And he goes, oh, I don't care about that. He goes, kid, anybody ever tell you look like Little Richard? And I go, Little Richard. I didn't know, I thought he was talking about a wrestler named Little Richard. So I go, I never heard of Little Richard. He goes, you know, the singer, womp baba loo bob and womp bop boo, you know. I go, oh, the singer, Little Richard. I go, I never heard that before. He goes, I think I got a gimmick for you. Are you kidding me? You know, my first time there, Dusty Rhodes sees this character, Johnny B. Bad, you know, and my whole life changed. You know, I mean, obviously, he signed me to my first contract, and I spent 6 years at WCW, then 4 years over at WWE, then on to TNA and XWF and a couple others. And just, you know, it was a total of about 14 years of wrestling. You know, it was just an amazing experience in my life that I'm so blessed that I was able to do that and took that chance. You know, the Zig Ziglar once said, it's better to fail and try than try to fail. I mean, it's better to try and fail than fail to try.
Yeah. I mean, because failure is the greatest teacher. You know, you learn so much from, you know, not being able to do something. But now, like, Johnny B. Bad character, did you like have to be convinced, or you were just so happy that you had the contract? I'll do anything, you know, I can sell this, I'll make it work. You
know something? I was making $23,000 a year digging swimming pools. Okay. And someone offers you a contract that's going to be worth around 6 figures. You know, you're like, where do I sign? You know,
exactly.
What do I got to do? You know? And it was kind of funny because when Dusty Rhodes told me about the character, and I got to tell you, Noel, and I've said this before on some podcasts, that my greatest experience as a professional wrestler was the opportunity to work one-on-one with Dusty Rhodes.
Right.
With him teaching me how to become Johnny B. Bad.
Yeah.
We had more laughs. Like, we had those laughs where you just hug each other and you just can't stop laughing, you know? He'd say, now do it like this. I want you to walk up to the microphone and say, I'm so pretty, I should have born a little gal, like that. And I'd go, all right, Dust, I'm so pretty, I should have been born a little girl. He goes, no, you got to do it like this. And then he'd do it again, you know, and then he'd say, oh, hush, you know, I'm so pretty. So that's how all the mannerisms, and I got him from working with the Dream, the best, most flamboyant wrestler of all time. You know?
Absolutely. You know, he was an absolute legend. Now you're out there in front of, you know,
great human being. I mean, I think about where my life is now, and, you know, all the different paths I took and stuff, and what would it have been like if I never met Dusty Rhodes? You know, it's just incredible. And then the gift I have that I'm able to go out and make a difference in students' lives. Would that have ever happened if I didn't meet Dusty Rhodes?
Right. You know? Yeah. Right. Well, I was going to ask this later. I'll ask you now. How much has wrestling prepared you for this job you have now?
You know
or
what?
Calling,
I mean,
I should say.
I made the joke one time when I first started, you know, it was like, when I first started, it was like, I was just trying to go out there and inspire kids and didn't really share my personal story from my heart. You know, I just go out there going, you know, the old saying, here's drugs, here's your brain on drugs, you know, whatever, you know,
in the frying pan.
But just silly stuff, you know, and kids were just not buying it, man. And I thought, man, it's easier to walk out in front of 80,000 people at the Alamo Dome than it is to walk out to, you know, 500 high school students, you know. But I eventually just thought, you know what? I'm just going to share my story, you know. And all of a sudden, letters started pouring in, phone calls from other schools, and it just snowballed. And then I was doing schools in Atlanta. And often when I come to Atlanta, I stay with my friend Dallas Page, DDP. So I'm staying at DDP's place, and you know, DDP is the DDPY, the yoga. And so they do a lot of filming and stuff and putting together videos. So while I was at his house, he said, I always get a photo release and a video release at the schools that I present at. So he said, hey, Mark, do you mind if the guys come down and film you? And I said, yeah, why not? You know, so his film crew led by Steve Yu, who's just phenomenal at putting together movies and different formats and stuff. Anyways, he comes down and they film me at this school. And I don't know, about a week later or so, he goes, Dales calls me up. I'm back in Florida now. And he calls me, he goes, hey, bro, the guys put together this 5-minute video. Do you mind if we put it up on YouTube? I go, sure, go ahead. And the thing just took off. I mean, he calls me like a day later, he goes, hey, bro, that thing's got 100,000 views. And I go, let me put it up on my YouTube channel, you know? So then I put it up too. Next thing you know, millions and millions of people have seen this video. And but more so than that was the first month that video was out, we got 3,000 booking requests.
Wow.
I mean, we hired extra people just to answer phones and schedule our presentations, and we were booked through the years, you know. So,
right.
You know, I just think about how things happen in life, you know, and it really always comes down to surrounding yourself with other positive people. It's just there's a synergy and energy that's just incredible. And Dallas and I just really have a way of lifting each other up, and he's done so amazing. You know, we share stories about how we've helped each other over the years. And, you know, when he was down and out, he came to me. And when I was going through things, I went to him. You know, we both have become, and who'd ever think after wrestling, we both do something that we love. And there's no greater joy than helping another person.
Right. Absolutely. And you hear the famous story, how he helped Jake the Snake Roberts out. And it's
there's hundreds of stories like Jake, though. Hundreds.
Right. Yeah.
Thousands now, you know?
Yeah. Have you like gone that route besides helping DDP? Have you helped out other wrestlers that we may not know about?
You know, I mean, obviously I share a lot with people that call me or going through a hard time. My main concern is students. Not when I say concern, I mean, I'm just gifted that I'm around students all the time.
Right.
Middle school through college age students. Yeah. And that has been, you know, Dallas's forte is, you know, helping people with exercise, especially people that are getting older or going through hard times, you know.
Yeah.
Where mine is like a different venue than Dallas's.
Right.
But it's both been they've both been very successful.
Yeah. Now, like before signing on to WWE, obviously you met your wife, Rena, who became Sable. How did you actually meet her and getting her involved in wrestling?
Well, I mean, we were married way before I ever went to WWE.
Right.
You know, I was wrestling with WCW, and kind of a funny story, but me and DDP and Marcus Buff Bagwell, we traveled together once in a while, and especially me and DDP. And we used to play a silly game, give her your best line. Like if you saw a pretty girl, you go, hey, give her your best line, you know?
Yeah.
And we'd laugh it off when you say, hey, you know, whatever, you know, love to meet you. Love to you come to the show or whatever. And we'd just laugh about it. But anyways, so we were in line. It was a Quincy's restaurant. I'll never forget it because they had like this, it was like you go through the line with a tray, you know, and you order and then you get to the cashier and you pay for it. Well, we're almost at the cashier and this girl walks in with some of her friends and she was beautiful. And DDP looks at me and goes, hey, bro, give her your best line. And then when you say that, you got to do it. So you got to come up with something. You know?
Right.
So and it's always ripping each other on the road and having fun, you know? So I thought, what can I say to this girl? And so I asked, I got a napkin. I wrote, do you like me? Yes or no? Circle 1. You know, you do something like that in elementary school. So I told the cashier, when that girl comes by, give her to her. And I'm sitting right over there and tell her it's from me. So her name is Rena. Yeah. When Rena comes by, the lady gives her the napkin and she just puts it on her tray and she goes and sits down with her friends. And then she obviously read it and she didn't even respond, like, you know, and those guys were bawling. They're like laughing. Oh, good line. Do you like me? Yes or no? And we were just laughing. And all of a sudden, we're getting ready to leave. And the waitress comes over to us. And the waitress goes, that girl over there told me to give you this. And it was the napkin. And she wrote maybe and circled it. And it was that night. So I went over their table and I got them all tickets to come to see us wrestle in Jacksonville that night. They all came and we hung out after, and the rest is history. We ended up, you know, falling in love, getting married, and we're married for 10 years.
Right. Yeah. And your path took you to the WWE.
And then when I went to WWE, I part of my contract was bringing my wife with me. So I wouldn't have gone if I didn't get that stipulation in my contract, because I just watched too many people get divorced, being on the road and making stupid mistakes or decisions and things falling apart. So I just didn't want to go through that, you know? So I thought, if I bring my wife on the road with me, you know, we're together and we experienced this amazing thing, traveling the world, going all over the place together. How cool is that?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So unfortunately you had to leave the Johnny B. Bad character behind.
Yeah.
And came up with the Wildman.
Yeah, it was a little different. I remember when I went and spoke with creative and they came up with this idea, Wildman, Marc Mero.
Yeah.
Ooh, it was like, what is a wild man? And I remember Vince saying in the meeting, goes, "Can you do like a Tarzan yell, like?"
Right.
And I'm thinking, oh my gosh! I go, and first of all, I don't got a very strong voice. I cannot yell. It squeaks when I go too high, and very very raspy voice. So I said, Vince, I can't really yell very loud. And he goes, okay. So they bring in the drawings of this character, Wildman. It's like, what? And Johnny B. Bad was so outrageous.
Yeah.
And so, opposite of me. It was fun to play. You know what I mean? It was just crazy.
Yeah.
You can't go wrong. If you screw up a line, it's so what? Johnny B. Bad would screw it up,
Yeah.
But Wildman Marc Mero was like, I don't know. I just never connected with it. And when you don't connect with your character, the audience doesn't connect.
Right.
So I never felt comfortable being that character, Wildman Marc Mero. And, Vince had big hopes for me when I first came there. They wanted to put the world strap on me right away,
Oh.
And, but unfortunately it just didn't work out. And then my ex became very, very popular. And I mean, you walk in the ring with this beautiful girl and you got this silly character. Who's the audience going to look at?
Right. Of course. Yeah. Now, using your own name, did that hurt you think, with that character?
It's hard to say now. I mean, it's weird how as you look back on your career, I mean, this is 20 years ago. Right. It was funny that someone posted today, it was my last match in the WWE was in 1998, and it was today, December 6th. In Capital Carnage in England was my last match, and someone posted it. So today was my last match. What's that, 23 years ago?
Yeah.
So you think about 23 years later, did it affect me? Did it hurt me? Man, I don't know. I look at all the paths I took, and I'm in the best place in my life. Right. So whether it did or didn't affect how I am now.
Right. No, that's great. Now, a couple of things in WWE they had during that time was the Brawl for All. Mm-hmm. And I know, like, you being what's it called, a former boxer and a Golden Gloves champion, that must have been right up your alley until the opponents you had just didn't work out for you.
Well, the funny thing is in the Brawl for All, I had two matches, two fights, and I never got hit once. I'm good at stuff, but the difference is I've had 14 surgeries. People don't even realize this. I've had 5 elbow surgeries, 5 shoulder surgeries. I did not have the boxing like I was when I was a teenager. Right. You know what I mean? So it wasn't like I had this great background, but I mean, I could obviously slip punches. No one's going to really hit me or hurt me. But we're fighting guys that like
Steve Blackman
is a wrestler, and what do? You just kept taking me down. It was like, oh, okay, take me down again, take me down, and then of course, then I fought
Bradshaw, right?
Bradshaw. Yeah. And we actually fought to a draw. I don't know if you remember that match. Yeah. And we had to go one more round, and they gave him the decision. And but hey, I think we got paid like $5,000 more every match.
Okay.
So to go through that for an extra $10,000, I'll do it again tomorrow. Right. So,
were there any guys who like they really wanted to be in it that just didn't want to do it?
Oh my gosh! You know what? If you really look at the guys that entered and the guys who didn't, it will tell you a lot.
Right.
Vince called me on the phone and he said, "Hey, here's an idea we have. We're going to have this Brawl for All." And I said, "I'm in." It was like there wasn't even a question,
Yeah.
Because some guys don't have the balls to do that. They just don't,
Yeah.
And, but look at the guys that were in it and look at the guys that declined or were not in it.
Yeah.
Okay. And some of them are top superstars that they don't want to take a chance of getting their ass beat in front of the national TV audience,
right,
in the world, and ruin their career. Look how many careers that Brawl for All ruined.
Yeah, Bart Gunn, who won the whole
including
thing.
The guy who won it.
Yeah,
Billy Gunn.
Yeah,
not Billy Gunn.
Bart Gunn.
Bart Gunn.
Yeah.
I mean, here he is ready to be put on top of the world, and then what happened with him and Butterbean just killed the whole thing.
Right. Now, if you won that tournament and then they approached you with Butterbean, would you accept that match?
Oh yeah. But see, being a boxer, I'm a lot harder to hit. Like you're not going to hit me clean like Butterbean hit Bart clean.
Right.
I still had that good peripheral division and stuff, but I just didn't have the strength of my arms or the punching power I once had. And speed. But as far as moving away from getting hit with a solid punch. Not to say I could beat Butterbean, but I mean, right. I don't think he would have knocked me out.
Right. Yeah. Because I think that whole match lasted like 15 seconds.
Yeah. I mean,
I felt bad for Barcon. Yeah.
Yeah. And he's a great guy too, man.
Yeah. Yeah. Now you had some great matches with Stone Cold. You going back to WCW and then into WWE kind of, I guess you can say you started the whole Stone Cold Steve Austin 316 and that amazing match at the King of the Ring tournament.
Yeah. Yeah, we had some fun matches. There's 3 guys I probably wrestled more than anybody. And because we were in WCW and WWE together, like Stone Cold, right. Triple H, and I, because of all the match we had in WCW, and then of course being on the road all the time in WWE, wrestling each other, hundreds and hundreds of matches. And then I think about the other guy is probably Diamond Dallas Page.
Okay.
I mean, we had more matches against each other, even though we were both in WCW together. He wasn't there when I was there in WWE, but we were wrestling all the time. We'd go on major tours and wrestle each other every single night. So it was fun to do that because you get so used to wrestling the certain guy, but Stone Cold, I mean, when he was stunning Steve in WCW,
right.
I don't know if you ever seen our tuxedo match.
Oh, totally. Yeah. Yeah.
I remind him of that. He's like, oh my gosh.
Right.
A match where you got to rip off the other man's clothes, That is not the Stone Cold character.
No. I mean, because like when you battled him in the King of the Ring, that was kind of the infancy. I think he stunned you, which you sold that stunner beautifully, but he didn't even do the kick to the stomach, which he ended up doing after that. But what was he like behind the scenes? Were you close with him, or was it?
No, it's funny. I did this podcast a couple of years ago, and man, it's like it's almost like becoming his friend. You know what I mean? We were never close in WCW or WWE. He's very he kind of took by himself. He didn't have a lot of really close friends. He was very he was the rattlesnake, the lone wolf, so to speak. You know what I mean? It's just the way he was. Not good or bad, doesn't matter, but he's a great guy. And now I got total respect for I tell you the thing I learned from Steve when I took into becoming a speaker, the mistake I made as a wrestler. And the reason why I think he became one of the best, he would watch all the matches.
Okay. Yeah.
Like he was always at the curtain watching the matches. Right. And it was like, as soon as I got to leave the match, I'm going to my hotel or getting on a plane or whatever, you know what I mean? And he would stay and watch every match. So when he wrestled you, he already knew all your moves. He knew how to put together the match. And I never realized that at the time, but I was looking back on my career and his career, and I go, wow, he could wrestle anybody and put on a fairly good match, a great match even, So I just really commend him for that work ethic that he had. And once I realized the mistake I made as a wrestler, I didn't want to make the same mistake as a speaker. I wanted to be the best. I wanted to have my audiences give me a standing ovation at the end, or have the place in tears, or whatever it would be, you know? And so I worked at it and I learned. I watched my videos. I thought, how can I make this better? What story can I share in this place? How will that touch their hearts? How that will change their life? And I learned. I watched other speakers, and then I became one of the top school speaker in the country.
Yeah. Now, going to that, so many times a year, you draw from that place. Does that affect you emotionally?
You have to. You have to go back to for example, when I talk about my mom dying, I'm walking up to the casket. I actually see the casket on stage. I mean, I visualize it. I go back into that place, and oftentimes I've broken down in tears. But it's so real when I do it that the audience can feel that. And I've spoken at some of the toughest schools. I've spoken at schools that got to go through metal detectors, and I watched that whole place in tears, or kids just putting their head down, or just you hear a pin drop.
Yeah,
and it's so powerful, and it's because it's real. It's real life.
Right, and you can't bullshit a kid. They see it right through it. They see.
And I've gone to some schools where you just go, "Oh my gosh, these kids are going to be brutal," But at the end, it always have turned out good. Never had a bad experience, other than One school, there was a kid with Tourette's syndrome. They told me beforehand that he'd be in the thing,
Yeah.
and he gave me more FUs during this presentation than I've ever had.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. And that goes back to your wrestling days, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. One thing I always wondered about, especially like, because you were actually participating in the Royal Rumble. So how does that, like, how do they, they'll know, obviously, this will be the last guy who wins the thing, but how do they determine who gets eliminated when they get eliminated?
Well, there's a big production meeting, and you know that you've got to follow the guy that's going out before you. Like, the couple guys that are going out. So let's say I'm going out 14th,
Right.
and Billy Gunn's going out, say 13. Jake Roberts is going out, 14, and or 11, 12, and then 13, then me. So I'm even though I'm beating on someone or someone's beating on me, I'm watching that guy that I'm supposed to go out after. So I know, and then I usually know who's going to throw me out. Or like one Royal Rumble, Steve Austin hit the ring and he threw out like 3 or 4 of us.
Yeah.
So this is when Steve hits a ring, you're being thrown out. So if he comes over to you first or that guy, he's throwing you out. So when he says you're out, you're out,
Okay. Yeah. And that works obviously, traditional battle royal as well. When all like guys are in the ring,
yes,
you might get a couple guys, it might not be this order, but you're getting, Bart Gunn out, you're getting Billy out.
Right.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Do you still watch wrestling now?
Well, I can tell you, not that often, but a lot of times I do DDPY with Dells, and he's always has guys from AEW come down. A few months ago he had Darby Allin there.
Okay.
And I never seen Darby Allin wrestle before, and we got to be talking friends. And Dells goes, "Bro, you got to see some of the crap this guy does, man." And he shows me on his phone, and he told me he was wrestling. So I go, "I'm gonna check it out, man. See the match." So and then Jade was there a few weeks ago, so I got to see her.
Yeah.
And when you meet somebody, it's different when you watch them on television because you kind of know them, So it's a little more interesting in seeing how they're doing and progressing and so on.
Yeah. Do you think having another or actually there's a few wrestling, companies now, especially with AEW, I think that brings out the better competition? The WWE, kind of like what you guys had back in the 90s with WCW.
Yes, I mean the Attitude Era was the best time. You had the Monday Night Wars.
Yeah.
It was a great time in wrestling. I mean, when you look around the dressing room, back then, and the stars that were there, it was like the who's who of professional wrestling. And it's so funny because they keep bringing these guys back in a sense to do promos or cameos or things. Yeah. That's how popular it was from 20 years ago.
Right. And then the Attitude Era, basically anything goes pretty much, or anything went, I should say. Was there anything that you guys just didn't want to do?
Vince, I saw, I was at Dallas had a Christmas party last night, and Vince Russo's son was there. He works for Dallas.
Okay.
And we were just sharing, and I always liked Vince Russo. I mean, he was our guy because we were always doing, I was the fall guy for Sable, and of course wanted to be because we're married, and
exactly it helps you
backing
out.
up the Brinks truck to our house at the time. You know what I mean? So the whole thing with the bikini contest, and I painted my hands on her. So there were some things that when you look back, you go, "Oh my gosh, I can't believe we did this stuff." I don't recommend somebody doing it today.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Was she ever I'm sure first starting, she was nervous, just even getting into a wrestling, ring, just wrestling. But how much training did she have? Did you help her out? Who was the main trainer?
Think about the moves that she did, the Hurricane off the top rope, the TKO. Those were all my moves. I would work with her. We'd get to the arena a little early and work with her, and they put her with girls that were great workers. Jackie, Tori. Luna was amazing, they all just worked so hard to get her over, and it worked. I mean, in a sense, we did the first match at WrestleMania intergender. We were male and female tag team. So she was a rock, man. She did really well. She was very good under pressure, and God bless her, man. She did amazing.
Yeah. Now, when you first started training, how many like moves did you actually try out before you landed on your repertoire? Because you were, a high flyer. Like, how did you determine on which moves you were going to
You know,
sell?
I remember just especially when I went over to Japan and saw that shooting star press first time, and I thought, wow, I never see anybody do it here in the United States, or especially at WWE. I mean, Billy Kidman did one at WCW, but his was more like kind of like flopping. It wasn't like a real high thing, So I wanted to do because I used to do it as a kid on the diving board, and then of course I'm the only one that's ever done the Mero salt. You think about that, where you hit the rope, spin in midair, and then do a backflip. I used to do the diving board as a kid. So bringing these moves to the WWE for the first time was pretty cool.
Yeah. Now, after you won, you multiple TV, champion and Intercontinental champion, when you won your first title, where'd you take it after the match?
I think, bringing it home to my daughter was probably the coolest thing, where she was like, wow, it's a championship belt in her house.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool. But I got to say the thing I remember most about something cool in wrestling was when my first action figure came out. It was I don't know if you remember, it was a Johnny B. Bad, and the elbows were like this.
Yeah.
It was silly looking.
Right.
And so I was at Kmart, and they had all the WCW action figures, and it was Kmart. And I went and filled up my shopping cart with Johnny B. Bad. And the lady goes, "Oh, you really like those dolls, huh?" I go, "Yeah, they're action figures."
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's funny. Yeah. Whose idea was it for the confetti can and then eventually the frisbees?
That was all mine. I just wanted something different, You know what's really weird, Noel, and then this really goes to, I hope young wrestlers hear this, because it's really what helped my career. There's nobody better to invest in than yourself.
Agreed.
I went out and bought those frisbees, had them made, had a bad blaster made from this Aerotechnic company.
Yeah.
And then what I did was I would shoot out money on television, $5 and $10 bills. Right. And of course, the kids are holding it up. So now every time I went to a house show, now I exchange it for fake money that says, with my picture on it, says Johnny B. Bad and Johnny We Trust. And shoot it out. And there, people are diving for it, thinking it's real money, but it's just the confetti and the fake money.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome. Well, champion of choice is thinkpause.org. Where can people find you on social media? Where can they get in contact with you?
Oh my gosh. Our YouTube channel is doing really well, man. We get a lot of views on that, which is youtube.com, and it's the Marc Mero, and Mark is with a C, MARCMERO. But just type in my name on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter. You'll find me very easily. I have that little blue check mark, so it's me. And I answer a lot of the mail too. I really do. I really enjoy that.
That's awesome, Mark. I appreciate your time today. You're doing amazing work. Keep it up, and thanks so much for your time.
No, thank you, man. You take care of yourself.